Good day everyone, and today let's talk about the chapter 14, which is Rizal in London. Rizal's stay in London from May 1888 to March 1889 was a pivotal period in his life. He chose London for these strategic reasons. First is to hone his English skills, then to study, then to annotate Antonio de Morga's rare work, which is the Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, and to ensure his personal safety while continuing his nationalist endeavors against Spanish colonial rule. During this time, Rizal immersed himself in Filipiniana studies, completing his annotations of Morga's book. He also actively contributed articles to La Solidaridad, defending his people from Spanish criticisms, and penned his famous letter to the young women of Malolos, inspiring their intellectual development. His extensive correspondence with figures like Ferdinand Blumentritt and his family highlights his global connections and unwavering commitment to the Philippine cause. Next is trip across Atlantic. Rizal's journey from New York to Liverpool aboard the City of Rome was, by all accounts, a pleasant one. His friendly demeanor and linguistic prose allowed him to forge connections with fellow passengers of diverse nationalities. He even entertained his fellow passengers with a yo-yo, which is a Filipino children's toy in which he skillfully used to amaze foreigners. Next is life in London. Upon his arrival in Liverpool on May 24, 1888, Rizal spent the night at the Adelphi Hotel, noting the city's beauty and grandeur. He reached London the following day and stayed as a guest of Dr. Antonio Maria Regidor, an exiled lawyer. By late May, he settled into a boarding house of 37 Shalcott Crescent, Primrose Hill, with the Beckett family. During his time in London, he met Dr. Reinhold Rost, a librarian and an expert of Malayan languages who was deeply amazed of Rizal's intellect and character, famously calling him a pearl of a man. Rizal dedicated much of his time on research at British Museum and regularly met Dr. Regidor to discuss Philippine affairs. And lastly, his Sundays were often spent at Dr. Rost's home, engaging in linguistic discussions, playing cricket, and boxing with Dr. Rost's son.
Good day everyone, this is Eloise and let's talk about Rizal's news from home. While Jose Rizal was in London, he received news from home, both good and deeply troubling. Let's start with the bad news, which centered on injustices by Spanish authorities against Filipinos and even Rizal's own family. First, there was the persecution of patriots who signed the Anti-Friar Petition of 1888. Written by M.H. del Pilar and presented by the Ratillo Cortes to the Queen Regent of Spain. And this petition is signed by about 800 people asked for the expulsion of friars, including Manila's Archbishop Pedro Payo. Those who signed it faced harsh persecution. Now let's move on to the next point. Rizal's family, relatives, and other tenants in Calamba were targeted because they had the courage to petition the government for agrarian reforms. But amid all this bad news, there was one bright spot. Reverend Vicente Garcia, a respected Filipino canon of the Manila Cathedral, bravely defended Noli Me Tangere against attacks by the friars. Rizal heard this good news from Mariano Ponce and was deeply grateful. On January 7, 1891, he wrote a famous letter to Father Garcia to thank him, and in that letter, he shared his vision for the Philippines. Allow me to read to you the letter, but you can read it also here. We, young Filipinos, are trying to make over a nation and must not halt in our onward march, but from time to time turn our gaze upon our elders. We shall wish to read in their countenances approval of our actions. We are anxious to learn of the Philippines' past, which we need to understand in order to plan intelligently for the future. We want to know all that our ancestors knew and then add our own studies in theirs. Thus, we shall progress the faster because we can go on from where they left off. To wrap up everything, this letter shows us Rizal's deep love for his country and his belief in learning from the past to build a better future. It's a powerful reminder of his vision and the struggles he and his fellow Filipinos face. Thank you so much for listening. I am Eloise Gabutan, and now let's proceed to the next reporter.
Good day everyone, I'm Shina Rose Algarino and let me guide you on Rizal's time in London. Now, this is arguably his most academic phase. His greatest achievement here was annotating Antonio de Morga's Successus de las Islas Filipinas. Why Morga? Because out of all the Spanish historians, Rizal believed Morga was the most objective and scholarly. He spent 10 months in the British Museum hand-copying the text because he wanted to prove to the world and to the Filipinos that we had a high level of civilization long before the Spaniards arrived. Now, during this time, his friends in Spain were begging him to lead a new political newspaper. Mariano Ponce reached out to him, but Rizal said no. He told Ponce, I am dedicated day and night to certain studies. This shows Rizal's incredible focus. He believed that building a solid historical foundation for our national identity was more important at that moment than writing for what we call a newspaper. Now, and then, finally, Rizal didn't just stay in the library. He made short trips to Paris and Spain. In Paris, he visited the great painter, Juan Luna. But the most historical moment happened in December of 1888 when he went to Spain and met Marcelo H. del Pilar and Mariano Ponce for the first time. Now, these three men were the titans of the propaganda movement. This meeting turned their individual efforts into a unified crusade for Philippine reforms. By the end of this period, Rizal had not only reclaimed history through Morga, but he had also solidified the leadership of the movement that would change our country's destiny.
Good day everyone, my name is Julian May Mandawi and today I will discuss Christmas in London and how this period marked an important moment when Jose Rizal became recognized as a leader among Filipinos in Europe. On December 24, 1888, Rizal returned to London. During this time, he spent Christmas and New Year's Day with the Beckett family. The celebration was very memorable for him because it was his first Christmas on English soil. Although he experienced a delightful Christmas Eve, Rizal also felt a sense of nostalgia because he was far away from his homeland and family in the Philippines. Rizal wrote a letter to his close friend Ferdinand Blumentritt, describing his Christmas experience. In the letter, he mentioned that the celebration was not the same as the traditional Filipino Noche Buena, which made him remember many happy moments from his childhood. He also reflected on the birth and mission of Jesus Christ, saying that a great genius was born who preached joy and love but suffered because of his mission. These reflections shows Rizal's deep spirituality and how he related Christ's sacrifice to the struggles of people who dedicate themselves to a noble cause. During the Christmas season, Rizal also showed his thoughtfulness and appreciation for his friends by sending them gifts. He sent the bust of Emperor Augustus to Blumentritt and the bust of Julius Caesar to Carlos de Pelac. Meanwhile, he gave a book titled The Life and Adventures of Valentine Box, the ventriloquist, to Mrs. Beckett as a token of gratitude for the kindness and hospitality she showed him while he was staying with her family. These gestures shows that Rizal valued friendship and always remembered the people who supported him. At the same time, Rizal was busy with his studies and research in London. Filipinos living in Barcelona were planning to establish patriotic organizations that would unite Filipinos in Europe. This organization was called Asociación La Solidaridad, and it was officially inaugurated on December 31, 1888. The purpose of this society was to promote unity among Filipino reformists and to work for reforms in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. Because of Rizal's reputation, intelligence, and dedication to the cause of reform, the members of the association unanimously chose him as their honorary president. This decision showed how much the Filipino patriots in Europe respected and trusted his leadership. As the honorary president, Rizal sent a letter to the members dated January 28, 1889, giving them guidance on how they should conduct themselves as members of the organization. In his message, he encouraged them to practice tolerance in discussions, meaning they should respect different opinions. He also emphasized the importance of integrity and goodwill, reminding them to act honestly and with sincere intentions. Furthermore, he advised them to perform their duties properly and to practice thrift, seriousness, and justice in their actions. Rizal concluded his message by emphasizing the importance of seriousness and equal justice for all, showing that the organization should always be guided by fairness, discipline, and dedication to the welfare of the Filipino people. Overall, this period in Rizal's life is significant because it reveals both his personal reflections and his emerging leadership among Filipinos abroad. His Christmas experience in London shows his faith, introspection, and longing for his homeland, while his appointment as honorary president demonstrates the trust and recognition he received from fellow Filipino reformists. It also highlights his strong commitment to promoting reforms and working for the better future of the Philippines.
So good day everyone. So today I will be discussing some part of chapter 14, which is the Rizal and La Solidaridad. So on February 15, 1889, Graciano Lopez Haina founded the patriotic newspaper La Solidaridad in Barcelona, Spain. It became the official newspaper of the propaganda movement. So La Solidaridad was a fortnightly newspaper that aimed to fight peacefully for reforms in the Philippines. Its main goals were, first, is to work peacefully for political and social reforms. Second, to expose the poor and adjust conditions in the Philippines so that Spain will correct them. Third, to oppose reactionary and abusive forces. And fourth, to promote liberal ideas and progress. And fifth, to defend the Filipino people's right to democracy, life, and happiness. And 2 days after the newspaper was founded, Marcelo H. Del Pilar wrote to Rizal in London describing how dedicated they were in running the paper. Lopez Haina worked as editor, proofreader, distributor, and even mail carrier. Mariano Ponce helped gather data and manage publication. So this shows how committed they were to the cause despite limited sources. So Rizal fully supported La Solidaridad. He congratulated Lopez Haina and also contributed articles. However, he strongly reminded them to always publish the truth. Rizal warned them not to exaggerate, lie, or use vulgar language. He believed that their fight for reform must be based on honesty, justice, and moral superiority. For Rizal, truth was the strongest weapon. Rizal's first article published in La Solidaridad was titled Los Agricultores Filipinos, or the Filipino Farmers. It was published on March 25, 1889. In this article, Rizal described the suffering of Filipino farmers under Spanish rule
So he explained that farmers did not only struggle against natural disasters like floods, locusts, and bad harvest. They also suffered from abuse by local officials and civil guard. Farmers were forced into unpaid labor, arrested without clear reasons, and sometimes jailed unfairly. Even their carabaos and oxen were taken from them. Rizal showed how these abuses causes poverty and backwardness in the Philippines. Through this article, Rizal exposed the injustice in a calm but powerful way. He did not call for violence. Instead, he used reason and truth to awaken both Spanish and the Filipino people. So, in conclusion, this part of chapter 14 shows that Rizal was not only a novelist but also a reformist journalist. So, through La Solidaridad, he used his writing as a peaceful weapon to fight for justice, reforms, and the dignity of Filipino people.
During his stay in London from 1888 and 1889, Jose Rizal devoted his time to studying Philippine history at the British Museum. While working there, he carefully examined historical documents to better understand the roots of Filipino identity. At the same time, he wrote short literary pieces intended for Filipino readers. In May 1889, a journal published his collection of Tagalog folklore, specimen of Tagalog folklore, which included proverbs and puzzles. These writings were not merely for entertainment, but were meant to educate and inspire his countrymen. Through them, Rizal sought to awaken nation consciousness during the Spanish colonial period. One of these significant works was Proverbios Tagalos, a compilation of Filipino proverbs translated into Spanish. By translating these sayings, he introduced Filipino wisdom and values to a wider audience. The proverbs reflected the culture, beliefs, and everyday experiences of the Filipino people. In addition to collecting proverbs, Rizal also created word games and puzzles, it's like riddles. These activities entertained readers while sharpening their thinking skills. Overall, his works in London demonstrated his creativity and deep love for Filipino heritage. And that would be all for my part, writings in London, Proverbs to puzzles, and let's proceed to the next topic.
Good day, sir, and good day, everyone. I am Kayla Lindipon from BSED 4A. Today, we will talk about The Romance with Gertrude and Adios, London. So, the works Romance with Gertrude by Nick Coquin and Adios, London by Louise Francia both explore identity and realization, but they approach these themes from different perspectives. Romance with Gertrude presents the experience of youthful infatuation. The protagonist becomes deeply absorbed in romantic fantasies, creating an idealized image of love. As the story unfolds, reality challenges these illusions, and the narrative highlights emotional immaturity and the painful process of recognizing truth. The character eventually understands that his imagined romance does not reflect reality. This realizations leads to personal growth. So the story emphasizes that maturity often comes through disappointment and self-awareness. And in Adios, London, it focuses on migration and cultural displacement. The protagonist reflects on life away from home and experiences a strong sense of nostalgia. Physical distance from one's homeland creates emotional distance and a feeling of alienation. The work explores how identity is shaped when a person is separated from familiar surroundings. Longing for home becomes a central theme, and the character's reflection reveals the struggle of adapting to a new culture while preserving one's roots. So both stories deal with identity and realization, but the source of conflict differs. Romance with Gertrude centers on personal and emotional conflict. The character's growth results from confronting romantic illusion, while A Just London centers on cultural and geographical conflict. The character's realization emerges from displacement and migration. One narrative examines maturity within personal relationships, while the other examines identity shaped by separation from homeland.